Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
After you create a public folder, you are the folder's owner. It is up to you to decide which users on your network can access this folder, and also what types of activities they can do if they have access to the folder. If you are the folder owner, or have been given the owner permission by the folder's creator, you can set the folder permissions by simply right-clicking on the public folder for which you want to set the permissions in the folder list, and then selecting the Properties command from the pop-up menu that appears. This will launch the Properties dialog box where you'll be able to set the permissions for the selected public folder. If you see a tab that says Summary instead of a tab that says Permissions, then that means that you do not have the required permission level to modify permissions for that folder. If you believe that you should have that permission level, then contact your network administrator or the folder's owner to change your permission level. If you can set permissions, then you should see a tab that says Permissions when you open the Properties dialog box. Click that tab to view the permissions that have been set for the folder. There are 3 permissions created by default: the folder owner's permission, the default permission, and the anonymous permission. The default permission is the permission level granted to all of the other users on the network who do not have explicitly defined permissions for the selected folder. You can modify the permission level of the default identity to change the permission level of all the users who access the public folder. Simply click the default identity from the list at the top of the Permissions tab, and look to see what permissions have been set for that role in the Permissions section located below it. You can then use the drop-down menu that's available from the Permission Level drop-down to change the role of the default permission, which modifies the associated abilities listed beneath the Permission Level drop-down box depending on which level you choose from the list. Now, depending on the type of material you'll be placing into the folder, you may want to completely restrict access to the default permission. So we could say no access is the default access. Then you could specify permissions for each individual user on the network to whom you wish to grant folder access. If the material, however, needs to be accessed by everyone, you could also change the default permission so that at least everyone can see the material in the folder. So here I gave them the author permission level. They could create items, read items, and they can see the folder. Or you can create your own custom level by just checking or unchecking different permissions. So here they could read items and the folder's visible, but they couldn't create anything. Alright. Now you can also add individuals or groups to the permission list of the folder as long as they're on your network. And that way you can modify the permission levels of the individual users and user groups in your network. And this allows you to have more control over who has access to your public folder and what activities they can perform in that folder. You can also delete user permissions that are no longer applicable. For example, if a user were to leave the office, you could delete any access to the public folders that they had. If you're interested in setting strict security over the contents of the folder, consider adding and setting individual permissions for only the users you want to have access to the public folder, and then setting the default permission level to none, or some lesser level like here where we can read and they can see the folder. You could also just simply remove the default and anonymous permissions in the XP as well. So if you're using Outlook XP and you just didn't want a default permission, you could click on it and hit remove. Then, to specify each user's permission settings, you would have to click Add. That'll launch the Add Users dialog box, which is similar to the Select Names dialog box we use to address email. You just simply select the users that you want to add from the list on the left and click the Add button between the 2 list boxes to move the users into the list box at the right side of the dialog box. When you've finished adding the users for which you want to set individual folder permissions, click OK to add them to the permissions list. Then, to specify each user's permission settings, select their name in the permission list and select a role from the permission level drop-down on the list. Now you can set the permission level of any selected user or user group which you've granted folder access to by selecting one of the available permission levels from the drop-down in the Permissions section. Simply click the user or group name and then use the drop-down to select a permission level. The permission levels could be owner, and an owner can create, read, change, or delete any items in that folder. They can create subfolders, and they can also grant and modify all permissions for the folder. You see up above it is possible to have multiple folder owners. They could also be a publishing editor. A publishing editor can create, read, change, and delete all items, and they can create subfolders, but they are not a folder owner and could not set permissions. An editor can create, read, change, and delete all the items. A publishing author can create and read items and create subfolders. They can also change and delete items that they created. An author can create and read items. Also, they can change and delete their own items that they've created. A non-editing author can create and read items. Notice they cannot edit any items at all, and they can only delete their own. A reviewer can only read items. A contributor can create items. The contents of the folder will not appear, so they can't read anything that they contribute. Also, you can check your own and create your own custom permission level. So it is fine to create custom permissions by just checking or unchecking the different options in the permissions section. The other permission is none. With a none permission, they have no permission in the folder, but they can see the folder. Now, once you're done creating whatever permission level you want, just click OK to apply the permissions.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.